What up? What up? It's Golden Spaces. We are back. We are an Odyssey original podcast, just in case you forgot. And we are reviewing the Warriors' win over the Nets. Very, very controversial win, apparently. Warriors beat the Nets. Finally, their defense kind of shined through, held the Nets to, I believe, under 100 points, but maybe it was closer to 100, whatever. But it's a much different final score than the ones they recently had. And yeah, it was an interesting game. Interesting game. What did you think of the game, Kramer?
Well, I thought the game was I thought we played really well. Initially starting out, we were kind of up and down. It was kind of just weird things happening.
Mm-hmm.
We had a ton of turnovers in the first half. I think it was like 10. It was just like, yo, guys, just relax, calm down. We're take a breath. It was as if the Nets were speeding us up and
Mm-hmm.
and we were just frantic. Then we kind of just like settled come second quarter. Things started to just, get itself back together. And
Mm-hmm.
we cut down on the turnovers, which was really key in propelling us to this win, to the eventual win. But I thought solid performances all around, and the fact that Curry was the only one to hit threes, the threes
Crazy.
that went in, is wild. But that we didn't settle. We went to work in the paint, just like it says here, 72 points inside the paint. We out rebounded them, which again, we do that really well considering everybody always talks about our size, yet
Mm-hmm.
we're still in the top 5 in rebounding. So make it make sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, overall, this game, I just thought it was solid and a much needed win. And we got tons of contributions from unexpected players, I would say, with Andrew being out, Klay kind of it just wasn't his night, and that happens. But Guy Santos, Lester Quinones continuing on that, but just bright spots there. And we got our boy Moses Moody back, played a
Mm-hmm.
good 15 minutes. But I mean, it wasn't his, sharpest game, but it's his first game back, and he
Right.
clearly was amped to just be playing, so he had a few points and everything, but still just good to see him back, and can't wait for tomorrow's game, and we know he's going to be playing more.
For sure. For sure. I mean, we got news that Draymond is now questionable for that game, so it's always something with this team. Gary's back day to day, right? He's not back, but he should be playing within the next few games. Andrew should be playing within the next few games. So the team is starting to get back healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and this is like, right around trade deadline time. So we'll see what the team looks like, both from a health standpoint and just from a player on the roster standpoint within the next few days. But yeah, I mean, I agree. They just outworked the Nets, and that was like kind of like the story of the second half, right? Guy Santos, Lester Quinones, Brandon Pajemski, those guys, they
Yeah.
just play 100 miles per hour pretty much at all times, right? They're going to crash the
Yeah.
boards, take charges, do all the dirty work. And that's kind of always been something that has been not unique to the Warriors, but something that's been very a part of their DNA throughout the years is having guys that just don't care. They just want to play hard and make every play and do all the things. And you put enough of those guys around Steph, then as long as Steph is on his game that night, you have a pretty good chance to win. Draymond has been leading the charge of those things, of just making sure everybody's playing with energy, playing defense as much as they can. And it's at that point in the season where it's early February, like getting to the All-Star break, late January, where a lot of teams are just dragging, and the Warriors don't have time to drag. They don't have that luxury right now.
No.
So they're playing with a sense of urgency that is, necessary for them, right? And you're going to run into a team that's struggling like the Nets or potentially whoever it is, right? The Sixers the other night, where just having more energy than them, you're just going to beat that team. So it's nice that they're doing that, and they just need to continue that throughout the rest of the season, pretty much. So the story of the game, obviously, was besides them getting the win, was Klay Thompson did not close the game. This is what, his second or maybe third time within the last few games where he didn't close the game. One of them, obviously, he missed the game. And it's been made a big deal out of his, his play this season hasn't been up to his standard. And people are taking this opportunity for him to, not finish the game, to kind of pile on him and say that he's the reason the season has gone the way it has. And he's completely washed. He needs to go to the bench and he needs to do this and do that. How do you feel about that?
I would say that it's not, on Klay that the team is where it's at. What, 3 games below 500, 3 or 2 or something like that. It's not all on Klay. Yes, Klay early on, him and Andrew simultaneously did not come into the season in form. So that set everyone back, because it was just like, wait, we can't have both of y'all on the struggle bus. Like we can't do that, because now that just messes up everything. Really, it does. But Klay got out of the funk a lot sooner than Andrew. Andrew is just now really rounding into form. But back to Klay, it's just, listen, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, yet it is something that, oh wow, yeah, we're not closing with him. But again, like Kerr said, if you ain't got it, because this isn't the time that we can kind of just like, all right, we're just going to keep rolling with the same old, even if you don't have it. But now it's kind of just like, listen, if you don't have it, we got to pull you. And there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. It's like, hey, I just don't have it. So, and he still played 30 minutes and was doing other things. So it's just, he ain't have it. So we go with someone else who is producing at that time so we can get this win. And so I'm not putting this, onus on Klay. Klay personally, he's just having a tougher time just kind of accepting where he is in his career and what his body is now. He's just having that kind of tough time to accept it and say, all right, this is what it is. I am not who I was prior to those horrendous injuries. This is who I am now. Let me embrace who I am now and do everything that I can to be a positive, really, but again, that's going to take time for him to truly accept it. And right now it's just tough for him to come to grips with that. But it happens in a long career in the NBA that people eventually have to come to the realization of where their game is. But he still has a lot of upside. So it's not like, get rid of him, toss him to the side. No, it's not that.
Yeah. I mean, like, just speaking back to the game, I don't even think it was that him not having it. I think they had a run going, and his normal rotation would have been to come back in probably around the 4-minute mark or something like that. And it was just like, well, we're in the middle of a run, so why would we bring him back in? It doesn't really make sense to do that. But yeah, I think he's having to deal with the fact that he's not as explosive as he used to be, like as a scorer, right? He's not as consistent as he used to be. And I do think there's factors beyond his control that are contributing to that. But yes, it's definitely tough, right? He's not a guaranteed staple in whatever they're doing on the court. And that's something that he has to deal with as well. Like he said, just going from one of the best players in the league to now, like, yeah, Guy Santos is going to close over you in this game because Guy Santos got it. Like Klay in his prime, it's like, it don't matter what Guy Santos is doing. You come back in this game, right?
Right.
So having to deal with that, obviously, it's been tough on him. But I do think, I think he's just more so upset at how he's playing, like how he's shooting the ball and stuff like that. I think overall, when I look at Klay this season, it's like, well, he's playing less minutes. He's taking less shots. He's passing the ball a little bit more. He's playing defense as much as he can, right? He's not assigned to the quick guards anymore. He's not assigned to any shooting guards. He's assigned to big wings and slower players and stuff like that. And he's had some great games on guys, and he's had some games where guys just couldn't miss when he's guarding them. So it is what it is. I wouldn't consider him a bad defender. I would just say like he does his job. He tries to do his job, right? He's really, really tall. I mean, he's tall for his position still. He has long arms and he's strong, so he can guard most of the guys of his position. And then you just look at other things like, well, is he rebounding the ball? Is he stealing the ball block? He's never been the type of guy to do those things. So when you look at his value on the court, what is he asked to do? Make shots, draw multiple defenders, and then make it open for other teammates, and just play within the flow of the game. And I think he's done that for the most part. It's just the making shots part has not been up to his standard. And since that's the most like obvious thing to notice, it's like Klay's terrible now, right? Like, because he's not shooting the ball up to his standard. So people are saying, well, yeah, he's washed. And I think just like most shooters, you go through slumps, and there's going to be a point in the season again, like he just had, where he can't miss, right? So, I mean, that's my opinion on Klay. It's like people pile on him and stuff like that, and it's like he's probably reason number 6 or 7 why the season has gone the way it's gone, right? If he's at his prime, sure, he would have had the talent and the ability to pull them out of the ground where they are. He's not that caliber of player yet, but he's not the reason why they're this bad, right? There's other things that we don't really have to go into, right? But like, it ain't Klay. It ain't Klay. So that's just my opinion on it. Like, people can have their opinion on his ego or whatever stuff off the court you want to talk about. I think that stuff is pretty irrelevant. His contract's pretty irrelevant. Like, I don't think they have had any issue building a roster with that contract on it. They have the highest payroll in the league. They have no issue spending money outside of Klay's contract. So it doesn't really matter. So it is what it is. People are going to make Klay the easy target. I think it's unfair, but people are going to do what they want to do.
Yeah. And it's not, it's just, he is one of the players. So it's easy to go at him because it's the Splash Brothers. It's like, if he's not, if he's not hitting at a high clip that we're used to, it kind of just, it is one of those glaring things. Because in the other night, that game, like, he like just bricked like off the side. It was just like, okay,
like 2 air balls, hella brick.
What's going on here? You know what? Just have a seat. Let's just, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
It was just those, and you just knew, all right, he's really not like all the way there. And he was just sick. So take that on top of the fact that he is older. So, he could be fatigued as well, because he does play high minutes anyway. So just all of that coming together to a head, this is what happens in the game against the Nets. And so it's just everything balloons. And
we saw
go ahead.
And we saw in 2022 with Steph, once a certain narrative kind of gets into your head as a player, it can affect your game, right? It can affect your ability to shoot. Steph had his worst shooting season of his career in 2022. Did he lose the ability to shoot? No, I'm sure he got into his head about that record. Then he started slumping. He also had the hand injuries from before. He had some stuff going on with his family outside of off the court.
Right.
And then then the narrative started picking up. Steph's lost it. He ain't shooting the same no more. And it was an extended stretch of him just not being able to shoot the ball, like even at league average levels, let alone his level. And I'm sure the contract situation with Klay, how the uncertainty of free agency, what contract he's going to get, and people within the fan base and outside of the fan base piling on him every chance they get, I'm sure that gets to a player. So, in my opinion, everybody need to lay off Klay a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, if he's not playing well, by all means, like, it's fair game. But the whole like slanderous nature of it is just very weird to me, especially to someone who's done this much for the franchise. So that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. And just to put a bow on this, I think why the vitriol happens with Klay is because of just how he wears it. He's very, just seems just so, like nonchalant about it. Yet if if he isn't playing well, he's showing it. He's, the slumping, so he shows it a little bit more, and
Mhm.
that allows for the see, so
Yeah,
that if it was just kind of just like, hey, I'm trying, and I just had a bad
yeah,
one. So, hey, if I got to sit down, I got to sit down. But that's not how he presents. So
right.
that's when people really just start, coming after him even more so than it was just like if he kind of just was like, it happens, he wouldn't even get that much.
Yeah, he's a prideful guy. He wears his pride like
Right.
on his sleeve, so you can see when he isn't playing well or he isn't included in something. Like he's very much like, damn, like internally he's very much like upset with himself, upset
Hmm.
with the situation. And then on the flip side, when you ask him about it, or when someone like that he isn't close with asks him about it, it's very defensive because of that pride. It's like,
Hmm.
what do you want me to bench myself? Like, I don't care what nobody thinks. He very clearly
Right.
cares, right? Like,
Right. Right.
so that I guess that rubs people the wrong way. To me, it's like it's just he's a human being, and understanding how human beings work. It's no reason for me, someone who doesn't even know him, to take it personally, even as a fan. Like for him to
Yeah.
say like, what do you say? I don't lose any sleep over the fans booing, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care about him saying that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just his pride talking. That's just someone who wants to do well. And when people are like talking about how he isn't doing well, it makes him upset. And that's just a natural human reaction. Me personally, who am I to be like, F Clay? Like, he's so selfish because he said something like that when he's been
Right.
on this team for all these years, putting his body on the line, um, trying to help this team win and trying to build a dynasty. And he did build a dynasty. So it's like, that's where, to me, there's a disconnect for me. Some people take it personally. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got other things to talk about. We got a mailbag going on. We got a bunch of questions. Some of them are pretty funny. It is trade deadline season. The trade deadline is what, 2 days away?
Is it 2 days
I
away?
believe it's Thursday.
Is that the 8th?
I think
So
the 8th. Yeah. What's today? 6th. Yeah, yeah. So
mhm.
we'll see. Just I guess to touch on that before we get into the mailbag questions, it's been reported kind of like repeatedly how like Golden State is stepping back a little bit. Like their aggression is dialing back. They, I guess, like the team that they have, or they don't think there is a move on the table that will help them significantly compared to what they already have. Whether they're right or not, we just don't know, right? Because I mean, I will say at no point this season have they been 110% healthy and guys playing up to their standard at the same time. And there's been, trends pointing into the direction of, well, if we get everybody healthy, what does it look like, right? Wiggs is starting to play better. Loon is officially not starting anymore. Now Klay is slumping right now, so that's something that's like, okay, even after the trade deadline, if Klay don't get out of his funk, that's going to be bad. But if you see everybody together and guys are playing in the roles that we're supposed to be playing, then maybe they're going to be closer to the team we thought they were going to be. But
Well, you think perhaps, but you still also have to think, okay, but can they get into the playoffs with everybody healthy and this is who we have? Can we
right,
get into the playoffs with that? I still think they probably are going to do a move because when is it that Golden State has actually been loud about them making any kind of moves?
mm,
They're very kind of close to the vest type of, front office, and if something happens, it just happens and you're like, oh snap, we ain't even know y'all was doing all that.
hmm
You know what I mean? So the silence or whatever that we aren't hearing or whatever, or hearing, I should say, we shouldn't get crazy about it, like, they ain't gonna do nothing, look, everybody else is doing this, that, these, and those. Like, that's not how we've ever operated. So let's kind of just like give them a chance to do what they're going to do, and we'll see when the deadline passes if they're going to do anything. But I think the one thing, if they're going to do something, it is going to be to move off of Chris Paul. I think that is their best case scenario. Yet keeping everybody else moving off of that, and you can throw in one of them little first rounders or whatever, because you still have drafted some quality players that, hey, they're our future. We can build off of them. We give up one little first round pick. That's not going to destroy us in a few years. You know what I'm saying? Because now these guys are growing with it. And while you still have Curry in his prime, even though it's on the other side of it, but he's still showing, listen, I can get us to stuff. Give me one more piece here or whatever. Because really, Chris is not, listen, we saw what he could do. Yes, you know, Draymond was out or whatever, but I think really at this point, it's kind of like it's unnecessary. Move off of him. Lester slides in that spot. Win-win situation. And we get somebody else. You know, we could get another wing, but really, hey, if we could get that center,
that'd be amazing, right?
Yeah. Because at this point, whatever center at this point. But you know, but kudos to Looney, because he did have a better game last night. He really did. So we're not even gonna you know, poo-poo on what he did last night, because he really did play better. And listen, he's accepted his, if I'm a DNP or I'm just gonna play 5 minutes, that's just what I'm gonna do. But I'm always come to work ready.
Right. Yeah, so that's what Loon does. That's what Loon does. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree. They need to consolidate the roster just for the sake of streamlining the rotation a little bit more, and then just filling in some needs that you may have. So let's get into these mailbag questions. Question number 1 from ABDZ or Abds. I don't know. It's my guy on Twitter. I think he's a KD fan. Shout out to that guy. So his question is, what is the biggest reason for the Warriors fall off this season? Is it the trio of Steph, Dre, and Klay regressing? Or is it Wiggins and Looney? If it's the latter, which 2 rotation players do you swap them with to get back into the playoff mix? I'm not sure if he means via trade or via internal just swap. You want to take a stab at that?
I mean, the biggest reason, I can't say that it's Wiggs and Loon together. It's really kind of, it's Draymond not being available just at all for a huge portion of the season, and couple that with Klay, Wiggins, and Loon not playing to their level to start out the gate. Like, they were, it was really kind of concerning. Like, hold on, look, did what they work on over the break? Because it didn't look like nothing. Looney looked like he had 4 backpacks on him out there, you know, and Wiggs just totally forgot, like, I play basketball for a living. And then Klay, it was just, he just wasn't in shape. And it was just like, come on, homie, like, we've been through this already, you know. So I think it's all of those things as to why we fell into the position that we did. So
okay. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would say Draymond missing all that time was number 1, right? Your second best player. He's a connector. He keeps everybody engaged. He means so much to the team on the court that, like, him being out for an extended absence is just going to make your lives way harder. So I say that was number 1. I think Wiggins and Loon is kind of like, it's more so like the result of the front office just putting so much on his shoulders for these last few years, with missing with the Wiseman pick. They expected Wiseman to be pretty much what Kuminga is now, like just like a young budding star that can carry a load for the older guys, start, do all this stuff. And turns out that he was like the opposite of that. But in the process of that, they had no bigs or centers to help Loon in that process, right? So like, His body is at this point maybe a little bit over the hill. Maybe he just needs a rest because he's played so many games in a row. But him not being as mobile as he used to be hurts their offense and their defense. Wiggins, obviously, for the majority of the beginning of the season, just completely forgot how to play basketball at a winning level. Not scoring, not defending well, not doing pretty much any of the stuff that they need him to do. Klay, I think he started off the season decent, right? He was shooting efficiently. He just wasn't like explosive. He wasn't getting like 20 points, stuff like that. It was like a 12, 14, stuff like that. Then he got really ice cold for a little bit. So all of those things together obviously hurt a lot. And then Steve hasn't coached a great season, right? Like he's been kind of late to making adjustments that we need him to make. Keeping guys that can help out of the rotation or like limiting their minutes, like Moses and Trace. Just little stuff like that, mismanaging late game situations, stuff like that. Playing Steph and Chris Paul a little bit too much together, and their defense is suffering from that. Playing two small guards together a lot, even if it's not Steph and Chris Paul, like Corey and Chris Paul, or Corey and Steph and stuff like that. So all of those things together is the biggest reason, or they're all the reasons why Golden State is where they are right now. And as far as like two rotation players to replace Wiggins and Loon, I mean, I think at this point, JK replaced Loon in the rotation like permanently, right? Like, so I think that in itself has helped a ton. JK plus Wiggs plus Draymond is just a massive positive since its inception. Yeah. So I think unless there is a deal on the table to replace Wiggs via trade for somebody that's clearly better than him, I think that's what you need to get back into the playoff mix. Just leaning into that lineup and praying for health and praying that guys, just continue to build and trend upward as players.
Yeah.
Speaking of trades, this question is from Trapanese. Trapanese. He said, let's say Mike addresses the needs of the team via trade, but he also keeps Wiggins. So he's pretty much saying, like, what if he trades Chris Paul for like a center or something like that?
Right. Like what we were
already saying.
Yeah.
What is Golden State's ceiling this season? I think after that, he went on to say, like, he thinks they can potentially get to the West Conference Finals, like the Lakers, some type of run like that.
I'd agree. The way that we are starting to see folks put it together and actually start playing their game, we could totally get there. Because again, early on, you saw we were in these games against the tops in the West right now. Like we were in all the games, just brain farts.
Look, and guys out.
Yeah, just brain farts, when it's time to close. And that was defensively. And that was, again, who was MIA for the bulk of all of that, who kind of just sets the table, makes sure everybody is where they need to be, so that's why I can see if we do make this one trade or whatever, and it's, Paul is out, Kojo is out, boom, 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 happy dance over here. Whoever they bring in clearly is going to be at a level that keeps us moving forward and doesn't keep us stagnant. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, well, then what was the point of it?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think whenever you have Steph on your team and some competent level of players around him, your ceiling is championship. Like, it is what it is, right? It's just a matter of how consistent are those guys around him, and that kind of determines your floor, right? So they've been playing a lot closer to their floor than their ceiling, but their ceiling is still championship, right? You have one of the very few players in the league capable of winning a championship as your best player. So that is your ceiling. Now, if they address the team needs, they can go on a run, right? If they get a little bit more size on the inside defensively, guys that Kerr trusts that he can play major minutes, that can hold up health-wise and help Draymond just kind of establish a defensive floor, especially when Draymond's off the court. That's where their biggest fall-off is right now. Like, if you look at the numbers, the Steph, Klay, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond lineup is like a 100 defensive rating, right? Extremely potent defensively. All like the other lineups that they play, they just get murdered, right? Like, they just get murdered. So you need some size on the court, some defense on the court, and then you need guys like JK to stay consistent with what he's been doing. He's been like kind of stepping into that role of what people thought Siakam was going to be, like, at least scoring wise, right? Siakam's a better playmaker, but JK is improving in that as well. So like the offense is not really the issue. They have a top 10 offense in the league. They need defense, and especially they need defense in the clutch. And I think just going out and get players that can help steady the ship over the course of the game will keep guys fresher, keep the defense more consistent over the course of the game. And like I said, from there, their ceiling is championship. Even though I wouldn't bet on them winning it. I was just saying that would be their ceiling.
Well, I will also say with that, they still have that taste in their mouth from that second round.
Yeah.
So they were not happy campers there. So I'm kind of just feeling like, no, we've got something to prove, because second round, nah, that ain't us. Yeah. That ain't us. And the way it just all happened was just ugh. So I think that also is motivation as well. But again, they're trying to take, the baby steps. Like, look, one game at a time. Let us stack these wins one game at a time. Let's get through this road trip and be on the positive end of that. So here we are.
Next question from Candlestick Will. Shout out to Candlestick Will. He's one of the OG Warriors Twitter. He's just one of the GOATs out there. So who do you want Golden State to trade CP3 for? These questions keep leading into the next question.
Leading right into the next. Well, I'll say if we can get, which I just think that this is probably not going to happen based on how they have their rotation set up now, and it seems to be working out fine with Jared Allen and Mobley. Look, I can't even get it.
Evan Mobley.
I don't know why I want to add an S. Evan, how that's all working out together, because they've, staggered their minutes and everything, but then they play a little bit together, but then they stagger. So I don't know, but Jared Allen would just be, the bee's knees for me if we could get him. But I don't know if that's even possible now that they're cooking over there.
Like, yeah. I think they've won 14 out of 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're cooking. I don't know if they'll be sellers at the deadline this year, considering how good they're playing. But, I mean, just kind of piggyback on that, just any starting caliber center. It doesn't have to necessarily come to our team and start. But, like, just someone who's able that you can trust to say, okay, when we have this guy on the court, it's not going to be a layup line. They're going to be able to finish wide open layups under the rim and not pump fake 1,000 times. No, we love you, Loon, but we just need somebody who can move a little bit and can just play a little bit above the rim. That is Trace right now, but Trace is a little foul happy. He's a leaper. So like they say, leapers leap. And I don't think Kerr trusts him to stay out of foul trouble right now. So if you bring in somebody who can move their feet defensively, that's taller than 6'9", that would be amazing. Like that would fix a lot of issues for this team. There's been talks about Jonathan Isaac potentially.
Yeah.
He's someone who fits that bill, right? He's not naturally a center, but on Golden State, everybody's a center.
Right.
He would probably
he's got questionable politics, but
right. I mean,
on the court, he looks like he could work
for sure. I think he definitely could work defensively on the court. I think offensively, we'll have to see about that. And then off the court, I don't know how he'll be received in the locker room. It's not really a lot of guys coming to his defense as a teammate. So
yeah,
I don't know if I'm on the Jonathan Isaac train, but someone of that, cloth defensively would be great with size that can move their feet, do things like that.
And Clint Capella
is one of those guys.
Because, the Hawks are still, they're sellers. It's like, take everyone except for Trey.
But I would take Clint.
Yeah, but right now he's injured, of course, right after we played them. He was out 7 to 10 days, I think, was the report. So
Yeah,
he could be somebody. I mean, I don't know how the money works there, but again, we're just trying to get rid of Chris, and that's
right.
a 30 piece, and Kojo. So add that in the mix too. And if you need a first, go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I think Clint makes somewhere in the 20s maybe this year, and it might be a descending contract or something like that. But
Okay.
money's close enough, and I'll take him. He's a mobile big that can reasonably protect the rim and rebound, and just he's just a more athletic version of what Looney is. So that's kind of what they need, right? Let's move on to the next question from OS28. When GP2 and CP3 are back, this is a long question, by the way, guys.
Ooh.
If they're not traded, I can see a combo of playing time that can lead to great highs, but I can also see a combo leading to disaster. This team has the talent for a deep run, in my opinion. It's just coaching staff hasn't found the right mix. Even JK and BP are clearly in their top 6 rotation. With CP playing 20 minutes per game and stabilizing the second unit using GP2 for specific assignments and no more than 15 minutes per game, do you see a potential dark horse in the West, or am I just wishful thinking? Long question there.
Ooh. Um, hmm. I think the coaching staff is finding the rotations now and who best to put with whom at this stage. I think it's starting to click and everything. Granted, GB2 is not back just yet, but he's really somebody. Listen, just get out there. Like everybody else, we're gonna figure it out. You go get him. That's really like with GB2.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Starters, second unit, it don't matter. We want you to be on this person whenever they get in the game. That's your job. So he's kind of just like our outlier. Like he's just a plug and play wherever. CP, I don't know, if he's still going to be in there, but if we're cutting down the minutes to 20, then that elevates Pods, I think, more, and then more Moses as well. Just kind of eating into those minutes. But I just don't think that CP3 is still going to be here though.
Yeah, I don't either. I guess to answer this question, if he is here, less CP3 minutes is probably the better.
Right.
Right. Like if he's somewhere capped at 20 minutes per game, it opens up a lot more minutes for the guys who can do all of the like defensive things and just athleticism things that he can't do. So yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with the overall premise of this question, which is pretty much saying like the team, there's a better team in here. We just got to mix and match the pieces and the minutes and the rotation a little bit more. I agree there. And like I said, like their championship is champ. I mean, their ceiling is championship. Like that's how I feel about it. Their floor is non-playoff team. So they're just one of those super high variance teams that if they find that right recipe, it could be great. But along the way, you might lose just enough games to keep you out of the position to even make a run. So they just got to find that balance sooner or later. And I do think the best avenue to do that is consolidating the roster via trade, just trim some fat, particularly Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And it would be a lot easier to figure out that recipe. Next questions. It's all from one person. T-Dog.
T-Dog Jenkins.
He would join a lot of our spaces and stuff like that. So shout out to T-Dog. He asks, what would it take to get Lauri Markkanen? And if it would cost JK, would you still do it? I know you want TJD to play more, but why, in your opinion, is Steve Kerr so against it? And what am I missing that he's doing wrong? And the last question is, what happened to Loon? I think we kind of addressed to it.
Yeah. Well, we addressed definitely what happened to Loon. Homie is tired. And once he got that break, you saw a difference in his game the next time he played. He got some rest. And so you saw the difference. I think that's our issue with Loon. I think playing all 82 games and us being in playoffs, being in a final, I just think that finally caught up to Looney, even though he's a young 28. Today's his birthday, right? Happy birthday, Loon Dog.
Hey, happy birthday to Loon.
Look at that. So I think it just caught up to him with that. So he's just tough.
Yeah. We already addressed that. I guess I'll take a stab at the TJD question. I mean, Steve kind of addressed this earlier. He said like Trace and Draymond is an option, but it's not something they feel totally comfortable with going forward. Right for now, I don't really understand that. I think that the numbers support it being a very dominant lineup, so it doesn't really make sense to me. But I will say Draymond being slotted into a 5 kind of like consistently now, it just eats more minutes at the 5. So it's just less minutes for Trace at the 5. Now, I think he should just completely leap Looney and Dario in those, you know what I mean? If Dre's your starting 5, Trace should be your backup 5. Whenever Draymond isn't on the court, Trace needs to be on the court, in my opinion. But again, like I said, he does make some rookie mistakes sometimes. He fouls a little bit sometimes. So I'm assuming that's why Steve is a little bit reluctant to play it. But I think you just live with it.
Yeah, and I think maybe just him saying that they've looked at it and they do see that they want to try it. I think that's a good opening to where I think we just might see Trace kind of get in there a little bit more, and they might just kind of try him out with Draymond on the court, or hey, Draymond's not out there, TJD's there, and then just someone else is filling that slot, and maybe we see what happens. But I think there's an opening that it can happen sooner than later. Because Draymond's going to get tired.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see it sooner.
Yeah, I think so too. And I also hope so. His other question, what would it take to get Lauri Markkanen? And if it costs JK, would you still do it? I don't think Lauri Markkanen is available, so it would take nothing because he's not going to be traded. But if he was to be traded, I'm sure it would take all of our young guys and all of our picks.
Right. Exactly. The price is too high.
A little bit too high. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's a little bit too high. Lauri's an amazing player. But when you see the leap that JK has made, he's now stepped into a stratosphere of player that's a little bit above something that I'll be willing to give up for Lauri, in addition to all of our picks and all of our other young guys too. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't really move the needle that much. So I would just stick with what we got.
Yeah, and why would you clear the cupboard if you still have Steph? Like, he's gonna still need some of those young cats to kind of just go with.
Just go play hard.
Yeah. So if you're clearing all that out just for Lauri, we're back. I feel like we're back to square one. Like, now we've got nothing on the bench.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
This is from Tommy Hill. He said, would you rather a wing or a big acquisition? I'm assuming just via trade. What do you think?
I think a big, just because we can't have Draymond playing the 5 for 48 minutes or 42 minutes. Like, we got to have a big, because I think wing wise, I think we're kind of solid in the wing. That's what I'm like. I think we're good. I think we're covered there. That it's the big that we could use, even though it's like, oh, we don't need a big. We don't need a big. And I was always like, we don't need a big. Look, Looney's doing fine there, and Trace is fine there. But just the decline of Looney kind of just was like, all right, we got to get somebody, because Dario ain't doing it.
Right.
So yeah, I would say a big.
Yeah, I would say a big as well. I think if you, like, I spoke to this before, like, Wiggins is now outplaying his trade value, so you probably should just keep him at this point. But if you're not going to keep him, then it kind of opens up the question of, like, do you need another wing or not? But even still, You have Kuminga, he's a wing. You have Moses, you have Klay, you have Potts, you have Gary, you have Lester, and you have Guy Santos now, apparently, right?
Yeah.
They can eat up regular season minutes against like bad teams and just outplay everybody just from playing hard. These are 7 guys after Wiggins that you feel are capable to at least step on an NBA court at the 2 or the 3 spot or the 4. So I think they're kind of good on wings, but the big situation, like you just said, is just not where it needs to be. So especially when Draymond is off the court, you need somebody who can just defend and just do simple big man things that we just don't have on the roster in abundance. So definitely a big if we had to choose. Next question, we got 2 left. These are kind of like comical questions for you guys. So, what are your screen time stats for the trade machine in the last 30 days? This is from Sam's Hoops, another OKC fan. He's been enjoying the whole Golden State not being great right now. So, shout out to Sam's Hoops. But
yeah, Sam's Hoops. That's funny. That's
very fun,
great.
very funny. The screen time stats. The screen time stats are very down because Golden State's not been very aggressive with the trade. So, to save myself from disappointment, I've just put the trade machine down a little bit.
Well, I'm not even rocking with all of that. It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
this is it, for me. It's just how I feel today.
Yeah. So we got our last question from Jacob. He said, "Who's the worst dressed player on the team?" I don't know.
Yeah, I can't say that I can pinpoint a particular player who is the worst dressed because they've all had their moments of what are you wearing?
For
Like
sure.
that should have stayed at home. You should have picked something else. So they've all had their moments of that. So I can't even because even most times they're coming in tracksuits, so there's really not, I can't even say, oh, for sure, it's this one.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. But they've all had questionable outfits one time or another. So
For sure. Yeah. I'm in the same boat. Steph gets a lot of flack for his fashion choices, but I think most of his fits are fine.
Yeah.
And like you said, everybody else just be wearing chill stuff. There's no one. Jonathan be wearing some racy stuff, but like he's into like the fashion world and like all that type of stuff. So
yeah. Well, so is Curry. Like he's purposely, wearing Black owned everything. You know what I mean? So he's really supporting the Black creator, the Black artist, so in most of his fits that he wears. Some of them I'm really like, okay, sharp, but again, like we said, everybody can fall off and where it's like, I don't really like
they thought
that.
it was it and it ain't it. Everybody have that moment. It is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all we got for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the mailbag, the game review, all of that stuff. Make sure you are following us on all the socials, Instagram, X, TikTok, all that stuff. Make sure you're leaving a review, a positive one, commenting on YouTube, positive things. Subscribing to 95.7 The Game's YouTube channel. 5 stars on wherever you're getting your podcasts. Make sure you're sharing it. Make sure you're telling people about it in person and showing them on your phone and then putting it on their phone too. All that good stuff. And yeah, continue to support us. We appreciate everything. We say it every time. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever you're doing, however you're consuming this. We really appreciate it. It helps a lot. And we hope to bring more good content for you. Kariemah, you got anything for the group?
I just want to thank everybody for the support. I know I'm a newbie here, but I appreciate all the support and the encouragement. So thank you so much. And hey, let's get this win tomorrow, right?
Let's get this win tomorrow and the day after that.
Yep.
Let's, we'll be back after the trade deadline. So we'll see what's going on with the team by then. So that should be a good one. And everybody put get well soon in the YouTube comments for producer Greg. He's dealing with a little illness right now, under the weather. So let's get Greg healthy again.
Exactly. Look, get healthy, Greg. Get healthy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, appreciate you guys. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.